Hey, everybody, and welcome to the FTN Network Schatz and Tanier NFL podcast for Thursday, December 7th, 2023. I am Aaron Schatz of the FTN Network, ftnfantasy.com/DVOA. He is Mike Tanier of themessenger.com. So you had just posted on Threads, I believe, that you are a masochist and you are going to watch tonight's Patriots-Steelers game and bet on it. So I'm sure people know by now this is the lowest under in the NFL in something like 25 years. And what's your bet? Are you going over or under the 30?
I'm playing the first half over at 14.5.
Oh.
I can hit it and go to bed and afterwards or keep watching, but I will not be grinding it out in the fourth quarter if this game is horrible and the score is, 13-10 and I'm like begging for this extra touchdown. So I'm playing that. Could not find any punt props. If you can find punt props, like over under like 13 total pump, good one for this. A lot of low reception props. I believe Ezekiel Elliott is at about 2.5 or 3.5. I'll have to check. Freiermuth is about 2, I believe, at 3.5. These are good overs because remember what these teams.
Allen Robinson is at 1.5, and the Patriots are 32nd against other receivers.
Right. Now all it takes is the Steelers offensive coordinators to realize this and throw him a couple of quick screens. But yeah, to clarify, 2.5 for Ezekiel Elliott. That's 2 screens and a dump off. Freiermuth 2.5. That's 2 screens and a dump off. I think that there's a lot of meat on this bone tonight.
My bet, actually, it's funny. ONF says, are we sure that the Steelers with Mitch Trubisky should be -6 against anybody? My bet is Patriots plus 0.5 in the first half.
Nice. Okay.
Because the Steelers are a second half team this year, very strongly. And I could totally see this game being tied something like 6-6 at halftime. And then the Steelers go on to win in the second half.
Yeah, give me a 9-9 so I get that over. But I think you're right there. I'm not sure if Owen was saying they should be, they should. I guess they're saying they shouldn't be that much of a favorite -6, and I can absolutely respect that.
Owen likes teasing the Patriots with the under. Yeah, Patriots plus 12 would be quite a tease. Yeah, Patriots plus 12 and under 36.
I don't want to have a rooting interest in this game though. I just don't. Yeah.
Let's talk about the games that really matter. I mean, I guess the Steelers are in the playoff race, so that game matters. But let's talk about the games that really matter because there's some big ones in Week 14, and we are going to go opposite time order, opposite chronological order here so that we can hit the games with the most important one first. So let's start at 8 p.m. with the 10-2 Eagles and the 9-3 Cowboys. If the Eagles win this game, they win the NFC East 99.5% of the time. If the Cowboys win, the Eagles only win the NFC East 69% of the time.
Wow.
But even if the Cowboys win, the Eagles are still favored to win the division. If the Eagles win, the number 1 seed is Eagles 62%, 49ers 35%, and Lions 3%.
Okay.
If the Cowboys win, the number 1 seed becomes 49ers 63%, Eagles 22, Cowboys 8, and Lions 7. And don't forget that if you are watching us live on YouTube, which we are every Monday and Thursday at 11 a.m., we will take your comments and questions about any of these Week 14 games. All right, what are your initial thoughts about the Eagles coming off the big loss to the 49ers against the Cowboys, who they have already beaten this year, although in a close game?
In a close game, I think a lot of people think of that as some game, well, the Cowboys should have won. It was close. I remember post-game win expectancy, it was kind of neck and neck.
I think it was, pretty close.
It was neck and neck. Eagles are catching a little bit of a break here with Dallas Goedert coming back. This is obviously a big deal. It looks like he is back. They're talking about like he is back. Brings back the third option in the receiving game that the team has lacked in recent weeks. You see some of those brownouts the Eagles have. That's part of it, is that everything is trying to get funneled to A.J. Brown and Smitty.
Also, they don't use Dallas Goedert only in the middle or even particularly in the middle, but it is nice to have a tight end in the middle. And I will point out the Cowboys rank 26th against passes in the middle this year. They are much better against passes on the sides of the field.
Right. The Eagles are not a good team passing over the middle. And the Eagles defense over the middle.
No, they're all right. They just don't do it as much.
They don't do it much. Yeah.
They're all right. Hurts. It's not like 2 years ago. Remember when Hurts couldn't pass over the middle? No, they can pass over the middle. They just don't do it as much. It's not a big part of the offense. Right. You're right. And the Eagles defense over the middle. Oh boy, I guess we're about to get to that. Well, I don't have a middle number for them listed, so it's not that bad, but they are 29th against short passes.
29th against short. And
they allow the most targets to number 1 receivers, although they're reasonable in DVOA, but they're poor against number 2 receivers and tight ends, who we know, even though Byard did kind of slow down Kelsey, we know that tight ends have caused a problem for them. So Jake Ferguson kind of coming out in the last few weeks here, could have a nice game against them.
Ferguson could have a nice game. And what the Cowboys showed a couple of weeks ago, and what they usually show, is that they're going to move CeeDee Lamb around and get the matchup. They got CeeDee Lamb matched up. He caught some passes against Slay. Certainly, he was matched up against Byard. I think that was Byard's first game. He was matched up against Ricks. And you know who the Eagles have who can match up against CeeDee Lamb in the middle of the field? Nobody at all. No.
But I don't know if the Cowboys have anyone who can match up against A.J. Brown in the middle of the field.
That's a good point, but the Eagle, it's usually the deep middle with AJ, or it's
it's slants, man. It's just slants all day.
Slants.
I will point out the Cowboys' offense is better when it spreads out a defense, while the Eagles' defense is better in base. And the first time these two teams played, the Cowboys forced the Eagles to play nickel on 67 out of 72 plays.
Right.
And it's also true on the flip. The Eagles are better if you play nickel. So the Eagles want you to play nickel. So there's going to be a lot of 3 wide sets in this game.
Right. Speaking of base, the Eagles have Shaq Leonard now. I don't know what kind of contribution he's going to be able to make. And frankly,
I don't know what he'll be ready to do, and I don't know what he has left. I mean, there's a reason why the Colts weren't playing him.
Exactly. And this is a guy who I think used to be a big plus in coverage, kind of a minus at this point. You spread the Eagles out. You're getting guys. Last week, Sidney Brown, rookie safety, was being used as a slot corner, was somewhat effective in that role. You're really kind of stretching thin, but Bradley Roby is kind of toast at this point. You're really
Didn't they used to have a cornerback named Sidney Brown? Like, I'm totally confused.
Oh my God.
Right, recently.
Well, I mean,
it's a different guy, I think, but
Sidney,
it's the same.
Yeah, this is a rookie.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. Unless I'm not thinking of Sheldon Brown.
No, I'm thinking of a corner. He played for Seattle for a little bit. He played for Jacksonville for a little bit. Sidney Brown.
You're memory holding me. Sidney Brown.
Useful title says Shaq Leonard and Zach Cunningham looks to be coming back this week as well. But of course, Zach Cunningham cannot play the pass at all. He is a run stopper.
Right. I was not able to find Sidney Brown, but now my brain hurts.
Yeah, I'm thinking of somebody, but I don't remember. Sidney Brown tore his Achilles at Washington on his pro day. That's the guy we're thinking of.
Okay.
Spells it with a Y.
All right. Excellent.
Andrew Daly says the biggest question is how much does the hook matter? Because the line on this game is Cowboys minus 3.5. Now, I will tell you, I would go Eagles, and the hook is the reason.
Okay. I'm going Eagles because I feel confident that we've I have the 49ers exposed, and the 49ers exposed the Cowboys like 8 weeks ago.
Right.
These are more or less peers. I think that the Eagles, generally with the exception of the CeeDee Lamb problem, are going to match up pretty well overall. And I think the hook is a bonus.
Yeah. And another bet I like, the Cowboys only allow 28 yards a game receiving to running backs. And the Eagles were, for some reason, using a lot of Kenneth Gainwell last week.
They were.
So I like DeAndre Swift under 15.5 receiving yards.
Check the injury report on him. I think he was a limited participation.
Yeah. If he doesn't play, do you get the under? Then it's 0.
Well, I'd be going out there like grabbing unders on everybody on the injury report if that's the case.
And I will remind everybody, if the trenches favor the Eagles, because as good as Dallas is rushing the passer, the Eagles are top 5 in all 4 of ESPN's tracking metrics: run blocking, pass rushing, and run stopping. The Eagles are the top 5, which surprises me about the run stopping.
Yes.
Because they've had some problems against the run in the second and third levels this year.
Right.
But up front, where you've got Jalen Carter and Fletcher Cox and Davis, it's strong.
Everybody, yes. No, it's a strong run defense, theoretically, and that should help.
The other strong that the system likes is under 53.
Under.
Yeah, it likes
Okay.
an under 53 because I think these defenses may be a little bit better than people realize, even the Eagles defense, despite their problems against the pass.
Yep.
And these teams are a little slower paced than most teams. Although part of that is because they're usually winning games.
They're usually winning games. That probably impacts it. Cowboys might have a little helium in their offensive reputation after week facing these really weak opponents.
Right. So we both like Eagles plus 3.5, definitely.
Yes.
All right. Now let's move to 4 p.m. with the Sidney Jones is the guy we're thinking of, says useful title, not Sidney Brown, Sidney Jones. That's the Eagles guy we're thinking of.
First round pick. Did suffer the Achilles tendon. That's the guy. Waited a year or two to come back. Never really amounted to anything in Philly. Moved on. Has had a little bit of a journeyman career where he's been okay. If I remember.
We confused our Sidneys. Okay, 6-6 Bills, 8-4 Chiefs, 4 p.m. The Bills make the playoffs in only 26% of simulations, even if they win this game.
Oh my God, that's
and
awful.
5% if they lose, and the Chiefs are, of course, pretty much in.
Yes.
And we've joked about the Bills, and I feel like this is all set up for the Chiefs to win in the last minute by 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bills, it's just been a crazy, disappointing season for the Bills. And I was on Buffalo Radio and we were comparing it to 2004, which is the best DVOA team to ever miss the playoffs. Mm-hmm. The thing is, the 2004 Bills were all defense and special teams, whereas this Bills team is all offense. And then the defense and special teams have, the special teams hasn't been good and the defense declined so much after the injuries.
Right. I was getting some research done for this and for the end of the week, and I was looking at DVOA strength of schedule, especially previous strength of schedule. The Bills have had the third easiest schedule in the NFL so far.
It's wild.
The Dolphins and the Cowboys and the Bills, and they're 6-6. And I almost laughed until I cried looking at this. This is
that loss to the Patriots looks insane at this point.
Right. And so does the Jets one. So does the Jets loss, really.
Yeah, but the thing about the Patriots was that they let the Patriots score points.
Yeah, 25 points on them, exactly, as opposed to this weird special teams disaster game, which was the opener, et cetera.
Right.
Et cetera. But, the Bills, I'm going to just jump ahead. The system likes the Bills, doesn't it?
The system likes the Chiefs slightly because the line is tremendously low. The game is in Kansas City, but the line is Chiefs minus 1.5, which suggests these two teams are even.
Right.
And even DVOA does not think these two teams are even. The Chiefs have been the better team this year.
Right.
And especially if you look at the Bills defense specifically since the players who got injured. So, as far as the line, I like the Chiefs minus 1.5. I think that line is too low.
I do like the Chiefs minus 1.5. A little worried about the injury report. Drew Tranquil, Brian Cook. I don't know if they're going to be playing. These are not necessarily needle movers in the typical situation.
Right. They're not really line movers.
They're not line movers in any stretch. It's something to give you pause. I'm rolling with the Chiefs. With 1.5, laying 1.5, I'm rolling with the Chiefs in this.
Some notes I wrote down looking at these defenses. Don't blitz Mahomes.
Well,
we know that. Don't blitz Mahomes. But the Bills in particular allow 1% DVOA without a blitz, but 20% with a blitz.
Wow.
And blitz Allen, because the Chiefs, Allen is about the same with and without a blitz. Chiefs go from minus 7% without a blitz to minus 34% with a blitz, and they drop from 5.8 yards per pass to 4.2 yards per pass allowed. So the Chiefs want to blitz. Now, I think the big question here is the Bills, can they run on the Chiefs, and do they want to? The Chiefs are last in ESPN's run stop rate. They are 28th in run defense DVOA. The Bills are surprisingly 7th running the ball. They just don't like to do it that much.
Right. They've come around to it a little bit more recently. I think they ran the ball well against the Jets. And, of course, you have some Josh Allen running in there.
Yes, you do have some Josh Allen running in there.
Allen was really, against the Eagles in particular, he was out there converting third downs, doing all kinds of stuff. But yeah, I don't think that they ever look at a game saying we're going to commit to a traditional running game against this opponent.
That's just not what the Bills do.
Yeah.
The Bills, the Chiefs defense, by the way, 19th on first down, 19th on second down, and second on third down, with the best pass defense in the league on third down, even though they did have trouble against Green Bay last week. And Andrew Daly says, I think people saw Jordan Love throw a few moon balls that got caught and suddenly think the Chiefs defense is bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And also that it was like a closer game, et cetera. And the Packers got some field goals and points off turnovers. I mean, I'm not going to discredit Jordan Love. I think he is making progress, but I didn't look at that and say, well, the Chiefs defense was exposed.
No, it was one game. It was one game. And that, like that one where he was falling backwards.
Oh, yeah.
And chucked it up like 40 yards to
Dobbs. They did the next gen stats thing and said the probability of completion on that was like 31%. I was like, did you move the decimal 2 places? That's a 31.
Well, I have a feeling that they don't have a falling backwards variable in the right. They're looking at where he is on the field and where Dobbs is on the field. And Dobbs was not like falling out of bounds or anything. So the dot sees Love. It doesn't see that Love is falling backwards.
Gotcha. The dot was confused. Okay.
One other interesting stat on this game, the Bills rank 29th against passes on the offensive right and are especially bad against short right passes, although they're a little bit better since Rasul Douglas showed up. I always find these side-by-side stats weird because I don't think the Bills play their cornerbacks on specific sides. I think Dane Jackson kind of follows guys around. So
I am not sure. That is an interesting. So I'm going to look it up real quick if you have something.
It looks like Rasul Douglas and before that Christian Benford played a little bit more on the offensive right and Jackson is a little bit more on the offensive left. But if you look at our lads, they'll list the opposite. So I think they move guys around. So isn't that weird that the Bills allow all this passing on the right side of the field? Anyway,
that is weird. Sometimes I would look at that and say, well, is there a particular opponent they faced twice or something? I don't think that would be the case in this particular case.
All right. So we both like Chiefs -1.5. We feel, Super Glucose says Chiefs -1.5 is a 2022 line.
I love it. I think that's right.
All right. Let's move on to 1 p.m. and the most important game for playoff odds by far. You know where this is coming from. The division where every game matters, so you can lose in the first round, the NFC South. 5-7 Buccaneers at the 6-6 Falcons. Buccaneers make the playoffs 56% of time if they win, 10% if they lose. Falcons 79% if they win, 28% if they lose.
Oh, you want me to say something about this game?
I've got a couple of stats. Baker Mayfield is better throwing to the middle of the field, but the Falcons rank 8th against passes to the middle of the field, but suck against passes to the outside, like very bad.
Okay.
And Tampa may have difficulty running on Atlanta. Tampa is 29th in adjusted line yards. Atlanta's defense is 10th in adjusted line yards.
Tampa made it all the way up to 29th in adjusted line yards. That's their highest rate since like 2016 or something.
And meanwhile, the Falcons should have problems throwing on first down. They are 29th throwing on first down, while the Tampa defense is 10th against the pass on first down.
I don't think I've watched a Buccaneers game in a month, man.
I have not watched a lot of Buccaneers this year. I've watched a surprising amount of Falcons this year, but I have not watched a lot of Buccaneers.
A surprising and depressing amount of Falcons because you always want to tune in to see who's at what position doing what wacky thing.
I feel like the Buccaneers, the players who have always done well are mostly doing well, and then there's these other players. I mean, Godwin's not having a great year, but Evans is 1,000 yards again. And Levante David, I think, is injured, but he has tons of defeats. He's had a good year. And Vita Vea is still Vita Vea.
David has returned or is returning this week. I saw that on the injury report. Vea has a toe. I don't know his status. And there is like a sampler platter of injuries all along that defense. I don't have it all in front of me, but you definitely want to look that up in terms of a couple of starters being out for a Buccaneers team that can't afford to lose a bunch of guys.
The line is Falcons -1, and I'm going to go with your general precept here, which is don't ever bet on a Falcons game ever.
Brilliant. The meme is spreading. Embrace it.
Not just don't bet on the Falcons. Don't bet on a Falcons
Don't bet on the game. Don't bet on a prop. Don't bet the over. Don't bet the under. Don't put them on your fantasy team, for heaven's sakes. Unless it's Jonnu Smith.
2 QB leagues. I've had Ritter in 2 QB leagues at some points this year.
Yeah, you get some rushing yards from him, and you get your 160 passing yards. And yeah.
8-4 Jaguars at the 7-5 Browns. People are pretending that Trevor Lawrence is going to play in this game, but let's be honest, this is CJ Beathard and Joe Flacco. Jaguars make the playoffs 99% of the time if they win, 78% if they lose. Browns 84% if they win, only 43% if they lose. And this was a hard one to draw stats on because the offensive stats don't matter much for either team because, we're not talking about Trevor Lawrence and we're not talking about Deshaun Watson or we're not talking about Dorian Thompson-Robinson and we're not talking about PJ Walker. So
we might be talking about Dorian Thompson-Robinson. He did return to practice. My gut tells me we're going to see a Taysom Hill platoon situation with him and Flacco, but that's not official yet. Yes. And that does make a difference because there's a big difference between Flacco and then a scrambler coming in.
Yep.
And Flacco.
The Browns do not blitz as much as other teams, but go from 5.5 yards allowed per pass without a blitz to 3.8 yards per pass with a blitz. And they are facing CJ Beathard. Do you think they will blitz him?
I think they should blitz him a couple of times.
Yes.
They should, especially because, again, we're wondering what Myles Garrett's actual health is. He played last week and was almost invisible.
And huge advantage in the trenches for the Browns defense. The Browns defense is 4th in pass rush win rate and 1st in run stop win rate. The Jaguars offensive line, 29th in pass blocking, 27th in run blocking.
And they've got some injuries on their offensive line right now.
Walker Little has had to move from left guard to left tackle because Cam Robinson is out.
And Little is hurt. Little is back.
Little got hurt too, right? You're right. Little got hurt against Cincinnati. Yep.
Right. So there and Christian Kirk. This game is a mess in terms of the injury report. Christian Kirk is out, groin injury that takes away from CJ Beathard's weapons. And I have it pulled up here. Goodness gracious. For the Browns. We still have Amari Cooper on the list now with concussion in ribs. Okay. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's hard to draw anything out of this right now because we're looking at 2 unbelievably nerfed teams.
Yeah, I mean, the line is Browns -3.
Okay.
The system likes the Jaguars +3.
The system knows it's Beathard, right?
The system knows it's Beathard, but the system also knows it's Flacco.
Yes.
And I think if Myles Garrett is not 100%, Jaguars +3 makes sense as a pick. I'd rather have Jaguars +3.5, but Jaguars +3 makes sense.
Right. I like the the quarterback making his first start. I don't fear Doug Peterson's ability to manufacture a little game plan for his backup quarterback because he did that pretty well for the Eagles in December. Couple of years back there, and with all the injuries on both sides, again, I think Garrett and Cooper are kind of in this, that's not really them out there.
Like they're going to play, but it's not really them.
It's not going to really be them, and I think that's enough to make me confident that the Jaguars will be able to take this one.
All right, 7-5 Colts at 6-6 Bengals.
So many backup quarterbacks.
So many backup quarterbacks this year
playing each other.
Colts, 82% of the time make the playoffs with a win, 49% with a loss. Bengals, 21% with a win, 3% with a loss. Jake Browning has looked good for 2 games. 2 games is still a small sample size. Once upon a time, Kyle Allen looked good for 2 games. But, Browning, that first quarter, I was like, oh, wow, it's the Jake Browning try to throw the ball past the line of scrimmage challenge. Yep. But then he started doing it, and it was good. It was good. Jake Browning was good.
Jake Browning was good. I don't think he was that good in the previous game. I think that he kept getting the ball a couple of times and was able to manufacture a few yards. But again, you have Jamar Chase. You have T. Higgins. He's healthy again. That is a pretty good offensive line. There's a lot there to work with. Given the opportunity.
And the advantage here is they like to go 3 wide, and the Colts have a -26% DVOA in base
Okay.
but a 3% DVOA in nickel, and they go from 3.4 yards allowed per play in base to 5.6 yards allowed in nickel.
Okay.
And the Daily points out that the Colts-Bengals total has been streaming upward despite high winds projected. As far as I know, it is currently 41.
Okay.
And the system likes the over very, very slightly, despite adjusting for the winds, but I don't think I would play anything.
I love the fact that this is going to be a high win game because this game needs one more variable of chaos added to it. It's at 44.
Is it 44 now?
How is it 44 right now? I'm gonna just
under
let everybody have fun with that. I'm not. That's too much for Jake Browning versus Gardner Minshew, and it's too much for a Colts team. I look at them and they're 16th in DVOA.
Yep.
And they're like the 16th team I've seen in a long time in terms of who they are. Last 4 games, their combined opponent record, I believe, is 12-36. They're out there pouncing on these bad teams. Now, I guess my question is this another bad team in the Bengals with Browning? I don't think it is.
Their defense, I mean, that's the thing. First of all, I don't know who Browning is.
Right.
And second of all, their defense has been bad this year.
Their defense has been bad, yes.
But the Colts are bad against the run, and so they can do a lot of Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
Spread him out with the 3 wides and then throw Joe Mixon up the middle.
Right.
Not throw to Joe Mixon, but run Joe Mixon up the middle.
And there's the Gardner Minshew experience is so many RPOs and so many little quick tosses, and then his weird scrambly thing, and maybe you get a big play or a big mistake. It's hard to make sense of what that's going to look like when you're not facing the Titans, when you're not facing the Panthers, when 10 points is all you need to beat the Patriots.
Yeah. The line is Colts -1. I'm not touching this game, but if I had to, I would take the Colts.
I'll take the Colts because you got Monday night overtime win with your backup quarterback. I don't know what you do for the rest of the week to come in and say you can build upon that.
But no want to touch. Do not want to touch.
And don't want to touch the over either.
6-6 Rams at the 9-3 Ravens. This is the game that I will be watching.
Okay.
Because it's the game that's being broadcast here. The Rams make it 61% of the time if they win and 28% of the time if they lose. The Ravens are, of course, pretty much in.
Rams have just crept up 3 straight wins.
Yeah.
Against some kind of so-so or kind of disheveled opponents, but they've really crept up on it there.
Now, here is my stat for this game. Matthew Stafford, the Rams with Matthew Stafford as the quarterback. 32% DVOA without a blitz.
Okay.
-7% with a blitz. Hello, it's the Baltimore Ravens.
It's the Baltimore Ravens. They blitz a bit. Yes. You put a lot of strain on that offensive line, which is kind of done okay for the Rams, but it's not, it's not the 49ers.
And the Ravens defense is also much better this year in nickel than in base. And the Rams always play 11 personnel, so the Ravens will be in nickel the whole game.
In terms of injury news, Puka Nacua on the injury report. And from what I understand, he was able to do everything yesterday, but everything, they did a walkthrough. So Puka Nacua is able to walk. It did not look phenomenal when he came off the field. This may be another Trevor Lawrence situation where we're getting the Sean McVay, the old Todd Gurley treatment with this injury. So that's something to worry about for the Rams.
When the Ravens are on offense, number 1 running game against the Rams being 21st in run defense DVOA.
Oh, wow.
Lamar Jackson is the second best quarterback in the league on short passes by DVOA after Brock Purdy. And the Rams defense is 23rd against short passes. Rams defense this year is better against deep passes than short passes, but Lamar is better on short passes.
DVOA is speaking to us about this game.
DVOA does not like this matchup for the Los Angeles Rams.
I don't like
specific matchup. If this is a game where if specific matchup DVOA stats ever mean anything, the Ravens should crush.
Yeah. I looked at the Rams. I look at things like the Rams' defensive variance. They're third in defensive variance. As I try to make sense of this team that kind of has, Stafford and Donald and, these 2 receivers and nothing else. And it's in the NFC, if you show up and you're kind of at this nice line here, you'll get the 6 wins.
Yeah.
You'll get you get the same thing every week. Hey, here come the Panthers. You get the win. Here comes the Cardinals. You get the win. I don't think that they have an elevation.
And let's give props. We thought the Rams defense was going to be terrible.
Right.
Akella Witherspoon has been very good this year.
Yes.
The rookie pass rusher, Young
and Kobe
Durant and the fantastic, and Dan Donald is still great.
Right.
So, lots of props to the Rams.
Yes.
Nobody really wants to see them in the playoff. Although I guess the NFC is filled with teams that are going to be the 6th and 7th seeds that nobody really cares about other than the fans of those teams.
You got your NFC wild card, whichever one that is, and then you've got these two teams that you're going to be like, but the Packers would be fun.
Yeah, the Packers would be fun right now. That's true. I think the Packers would be more fun. I kind of feel like the Vikings would be a little bit more fun with the way that their defense blitzes and with the whole Josh Dobbs story.
And guess who's back? Justin Jefferson.
Hey, that's right. Justin Jefferson is back this week. All right. Good job.
Right.
Let's see if the Vikings we'll see if the Vikings can do it.
Yes.
No diss on Rams fans, but I do think the Vikings would be more interesting.
Yes.
To be in the playoffs. So we're big on the Ravens. It's Ravens -7. We're big on Ravens.
We're big on the Ravens.
Big on Ravens in this game.
I love 6.5 would be better, but
it's not just DVOA loves the Ravens overall. The matchups on this severely favor the Ravens.
Yes, makes sense.
All right, that does it for today's show. We will be back on Monday to break down all these games and preview the mediocre, I'm being kind here, mediocre Monday night doubleheader.
Oh, God, that's right.
It's Packers and Giants on one station and Dolphins and Titans on the other station. And you get to choose between the two games.
And they're at the same time.
And they are at the same time.
So we don't even get that weird, interesting little stagger where you watch one, get bored, go to the other.
You can watch Peyton and Eli on ESPN2, and they will apparently be watching both games at the same time.
Oh, I'd like to see how they handle that because, it takes no pro to watch multiple games at the same time.
Will be kind of interesting. All right, that does it for the show. We will be back Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern. A reminder, Mike Tanier, themessenger.com, Aaron Schatz, ftnfantasy.com/DVOA. Don't forget to rate and review the show. Tell all your friends about it, and we will see you Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern. So long, everybody.